Simultaneous equations, quadratic and linear graphs at once. So let's quickly have a look. Let's say I have an equation. I'm just going to use the general equation. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And let's say it looks like this. So it looks like this. One of two things can happen if I say, where is that? And the second equation, y equals, and let's call this dx plus e. So where are these two the same? Now there's one of three options, and I'm going to write them down underneath each other. The first one is that this dx plus e might look like this, or anyway, and then I'll have 2 points where they're the same. The other option will be, and I'm just going to have it the same way here. It might be that my graph looks like this, and my gradient or my straight line touches only at one place. Depends on what it is. So there's only one answer. And the third option is that there's no solution because my straight line is missing it altogether. So there's no intersection. So that's the three, if I say simultaneous equations, that's the three options that can happen. It can be like that, or it can be like that. We wouldn't know. So how would we solve simultaneous equations? I'm going to quickly run you through what you'll have to do. Remember how we say that if I have two equations, doesn't matter what they are, if I set them equal, I will know where they are equal. So if y and y is the same, then it means that ax squared plus bx. So my first step will be to say, I'm going to make sure you can actually see my writing. So my first step would be saying that these two are together, are the same. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals dx plus e. Okay, so that will be the first step, is getting them the same. Then I'll manipulate this and write it as a new equation. So I'll bring dx over, I'll bring e over, and I'll get a new equation. Okay, so step 2 will be manipulate. I'm pretty sure I spelled it wrong. Manipulate in such a way that I get a new, and I'm just going to use new things. I'm going to make this as fx squared plus fgx plus h, where that equals 0. Okay, so I've got a new quadratic equation. My third step will be to find where x equals 0. So there's one of three things that I can do to do this. So three things needs to happen. So I'm going to say find where x equals 0. So find where x equals 0. How do I do that? First of all is the null factor method, which is 2 brackets equals 0. If you can't do that, my second choice will be my quadratic equation. X equals minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. I was quite surprised with my maths C the other day when people prefer to do completion of square. Completing the square. That's the third option. Or the fourth option is using a calculator. Now I might just show you a quick using a calculator. I might quickly show you what this is. So this is the basic. We set them equal to each other. We manipulate this new equation to find a new quadratic equation. Find out where x is 0 by either using the null factor. If I can't do that, I'm going to use my quadratic equation. If I don't want to do that, I'll complete the square. And the fourth option is using a calculator. Now they might ask you to use your calculator, or I can show you how to use your calculator to see if I can use the null factor. This is where this basic stops. I will just quickly like to explain for those people who are really interested in maths, just the following concept, because I know it is pretty helpful. If I use my quadratic equation, which I think it's the easiest to do because you know that, there's something that you can always find out. This thing over here, is called a discriminant. Right, discriminant. So if the discriminant exists, I'm going to have two values, because I'm going to find a value. It's going to be minus b plus minus this value divided by 2 times a, which means that we will have two answers. If we have two answers, we have to intercept. Okay, which means if my discriminant, if b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, if this is greater than 0, I will have that. Okay. What will happen if my discriminant, if this works out to be 0, it will be minus b plus minus 0, which is minus b, divided by 2a, which means we're only going to get one answer. And if it's one answer, it means it's going to look like this. So if my discriminant looks like b squared minus 4ac is going to be equal to 0, then we're going to have only one. The other way that you will find out is if I use the null factor, this works out to be whatever the bracket is square, because there's only one solution. The third one for the discriminant is if this discriminant works out to be negative. So if this discriminant works out to be negative, which means it's less than 0, it means that I have a negative square root, which means it's an imaginary number, which means that there's no solution for x, and that means it's missing altogether, and we can't do it in this way. So that's the basics. Please have a look at the equation, at the example, see how to solve it. Most of the time it will rather either be this or this form when you have to use a quadratic linear equation.